Hello guys, in this video we are going to put what we've learned into use by actually creating a design in Photoshop. So we are first going to open Photoshop and this is what we will be creating. So to create a new document, we learned that to create a new document you can come to file and then press new. That brings up this new document dialog. So here you can see we've entered 1080 by 1080 before, so it is going to save as our recent items, and then we are just going to double click on it or click on it and then press create. So this comes up, and first of all we are going to create a background for this. In the previous lessons we've learned how to create backgrounds using the gradient. So in this video I'm going to show you a new way of creating backgrounds too, and that way is very simple and you can use it every day in your designs. So to create a background, we are going to come to our layers panel here. You look down here, you see these are not activated because there are no layers to activate them. So first of all, to create your background, you are going to come and click on this, the adjustment layer. You click on it, it will bring up a list of items that you can choose from, but we are first going to choose this one, the solid color. So I'm going to click on solid color. Solid color means just one color to create your background. You can choose any color that you want from your color picker tool from here. So I'm just going to select something like this. So you drag your color picker tool to any place that you want, and then you can now drag your slider to switch from the colors. So I'm going to drag my slider to somewhere here. I think this is okay now, so I'll then click on OK. The next thing we are going to do is create some overlays for our background, and here we are going to combine our shapes and then the brush tool. So to first create the overlays, I am going to come to my shapes tool as we've learned. So I'm going to right click on it and then I'll click on ellipse tool. Here we are going to create a perfect circle that we are going to use for the background. So I'm just going to hold shift on my keyboard and then I'll click and drag to form my circle just like this. And make sure your circle is black. If your circle is not black, you can come to the layers panel, you double click on the thumbnail right here. It will bring up the color picker tool, so you can change it to black. So I'm going to click on OK, and then I'm going to close this right here. Then I'll select my brush tool. So I'll go and select my brush tool here, and you can see the brush tool is not activated. And in the previous lesson we've learned how you can use the brush tool to actually create marks and erase some parts of your elements. So to create the marks, you come down to our layers panel right here, and then you click on this layer marks right here. So this one is the layer marks. So you click on it, it will create a layer marks on your ellipse tool or on your circle right here, and then you can see that our brush has been activated. To reduce the size of the brush, I'm going to right click on my workspace, and then it brings up the settings for this brush, so I can reduce the size like this. I'm actually going to leave it a big size so that I can have more room to erase some parts of my elements. So I think this is okay now. Then I'll click on the layer marks. Make sure my colors here is black and white. If it's any other color, it might not work. So make sure it's black and white. Make sure it's black on top and then white beneath it. So I'm just going to click and drag like this to erase some parts of my circle just like this. And I'm okay with this one. I don't know if you guys are following. If you are following, you should try to have something like this. So if I'm done with it, I think this is okay. Let me erase this parts like a bit, and then I think this is okay. So you go back to your move tool. As I said, now we can move it around. We also learned about transform tool. So in here we are going to use the transform tool to increase the size of our ellipse tool or our circle. So I'm going to press Ctrl+T, and then I'll hold on Alt on my keyboard and bring my mouse pointer to the corners right here, and I'm just going to increase the size of my circle. I'm going to increase it like this, and then I'm going to rotate my circle just like this. I think this is okay, and then I'll click on OK. Then I am going to duplicate my circle, so I'm going to press Ctrl+J on my keyboard, or you come to your layers panel, you right click and then duplicate layer, and then OK. You can see my circle has been duplicated and I now have two circles. You don't need to go back to your ellipse tool and then draw a new shape. You can just duplicate the original shape. So once we duplicate our shapes, I am going to press Ctrl+T again, and then I'm just going to rotate this around just like this. So I'm going to rotate this around just like this, and then I'm going to duplicate it again and bring it to this side, and I'm going to rotate my circle just like this. I am going to select this layer, bring it down like this. So it's just about selecting the appropriate layers in your layers panel, and then try to adjust them on your background just like I am doing. So I'm going to duplicate this layer too, and then I'm just going to move this one to this side just like this. So you can see we already have some vibe going on in our background, and we are trying to make it stylized, and then that will help us, draw attention to our design. So what I'm going to do now is I'll come to my layers panel here, and then I'll select all 4 layers. So I'll press Control, and then I'll click Control, and then click Control, and then click. A shortcut way of doing is selecting the first layer. So I'm going to select the top layer right here, and then I'll press and hold Shift, and then press the last layer just like this. So it's going to select everything in the middle of those 2 layers. So I actually have these 4 layers selected right now. So what I'm going to do is I'll come down here, and then you see this folder. This is what we call the group. So here you can now group your layers, or you can put your layers into groups and name them. So I'm just going to click on this. You see it's going to create a folder for my layers. So if I actually click on this I button, it is going to disappear. If I click on it, it is going to appear. And when you also take a look at the layers panel, you can also see something like this. So this is what we call the blending mode. We're actually not going to use that right now. We are just going to go through the simple steps that we learned, or the simple tools that we've learned. But what I want to introduce right here is, in the layers panel, we have opacity at 100. Opacity is just the visibility. So it's at 100 right now. That means we can see everything on our workspace. If I actually reduce that to 0, you are not going to see anything again. If I actually increase it to 100 rather, we are going to see everything is very clear on our workspace. So I'm actually just going to reduce my opacity right here. So I'm going to reduce my opacity just like this, and then I'll press Ctrl+0 to bring back my document to the normal size. So if you want to zoom out, just press Ctrl+- on your screen, and if you want to zoom in, Ctrl++ on your keyboard. Sorry. So I think we are okay with this background. The next thing we are going to do is use our text tool to create some text on our design. So I'm just going to select my text tool here, and then click, and then just start writing, or just start creating my text right here. So I'm just going to start typing. I just learned how to design this using Photoshop. So for example, this is our text. We are done typing it. I'm just going to click on OK. Now go back to my move tool in order to move it around. And when you go back to your text tool again, you can see up here there are some controls. So here you can change the font, but we are not going to use that. I'm actually going to come and click on this. It will bring up my character panel here. So here you can change the colors, you can change the size of the fonts. You know, you have more control over your text in this character panel. So I'm just going to click on the color and then change the color to white right now. So I'll go back to my move tool again like this, then I'll press Ctrl+T and then just drag it out to increase the size, just like I'm doing right here. I hope you guys are following this. So you can see it's not in the middle, but I want to align it to the middle. And when you also look in the characters panel, you also see that there is paragraph here. So when you actually click on the paragraph, you see that our text is aligned to the left. If you want your text to be aligned to the middle, you can just click on this. If you want it to be aligned to the right, you can click on this to align the text to the right, just like this. But I'm going to align it to the left for now, and I want to center it. And to center, we've learned that to center your elements or any other thing on your workspace, you come to select and you click on all or press Ctrl+A, and this will create a selection around, and then you come and click on this to center your workspace. So now we are sure our text is centered in our workspace right now. So I am going to go back to select and then deselect, so then we can continue with our design. In graphic design, following the principles of design, we have something we call hierarchy, and then we have something we call contrast. And the hierarchy is just how you arrange your elements in order of importance. So when you actually look at the design, everything is not in the same size. That way you lose the attention of your audience. But then when you arrange the text in order of importance, so for example, in this text, we want people to read this text first and then any other thing that follows. So we are going to make sure that this is very, very visible for everybody to read, and then we are going to have the next text. So I'm just going to create my next text so that you see what I'm talking about. So I'm going to press Ctrl+J, just like this, and then you can see in my layers panel it has been duplicated. So I'm going to drag it out and then double click on it to select it, and then I'll write my name. So I'm just actually going to write my full name here. So it is going to be Nashiru Naim Yaba, just like this. So you come back to your characters panel, and I mentioned in the previous lesson that you can actually change the size of your text here. So you are going to make sure that we change the text size. So I'm just going to click and drag to bring down the size of my text, and then I'll press OK. So you can see that Photoshop 2 has guides to guide you align your text. Alignment is very important, and it's also one of the principles of graphic design. So Photoshop, you see these red guys that are coming out, they are helping me align my elements on my workspace. So it's going to help me align my elements very well. So I'm just going to make sure it's aligned. If it's not aligned, you can select the two layers right here. So I'm just going to select my Nashiru Naim Yaba layer, then I'll click, press Ctrl, and then click to select the next layer, and then I'll come up here and then click on this, and then it's aligned to my first text, just like this. So I'm going to duplicate, press Ctrl+J to duplicate my layer again. Then I'm going to bring this down right here, and then I'll say maybe creative designer. Actually, you can just input anything that you want, since this is learning space. So you can just input anything that you want. Just make sure it's aligned very well. So after I'm done texting, I'm just going to press Ctrl+A to select the whole text, just like this. Then I'll come to my character panel, and when you look at the character panel right here, we are using the font name Geist, or I don't know how you can pronounce that, but then when you look beside it, you see semi-bold, and when you click on this arrow right here, you can see there are weights that comes with the text. So you can actually have the text black, that way it's going to make it very, very bold, and you can actually have the text in maybe regular, that way it's going to be a bit thinner than the previous. So the previous one we were using was what, semi-bold, and now I don't want it to be semi-bold because I want to create a difference between the Nashua Naim in Yaba and then the creative designer. And one way of doing that is either changing the color or reducing the weight of that text. So I'm just going to reduce the weight of that text to regular, just like this, and I'll press OK. So I'm just going to align this one too, again, just like this. And yeah, I think we are done creating the text. So this is actually how you can create your text using Photoshop and using the text tool. You can see we've created like three text layers, and then we've arranged them in order. So when it's your first time viewing this design, you are actually just going to read there. I just learned how to design this using Photoshop, and then you come to Nashua Naim in Yaba, and then you come to creative designer. So as a designer, that's how you are supposed to arrange your works. And the last thing we are going to add is what we call the call to action button. So to add the call to action button, I'm actually going to come to my shapes tools, and then I'll select the rectangle tool just like this. So I'll just click and drag my rectangle tool and then release. I'm not holding shift, I'm drawing a rectangle. If you are drawing a square, you press shift, but here I'm drawing a rectangle, so I'm not going to press anything. I'm actually just going to click and drag just like this. So I think this is okay. So I'll go back to my move tool. When you look at the properties panel, that keeps popping up whenever we draw any shape. We are going to notice that we have the fill here. So the fill is the current color that we are seeing. You can see the fill is black, and here the fill too is black. So you can actually change the color from here, but we are not going to do that. One thing that we are going to adjust here in this properties panel is the roundness of the rectangle. So when you look here, we have our roundness to be 0 pixels 0 0 0. So to change that, you can just bring your mouse pointer right here. You see my mouse pointer has been changed to a hand tool with arrows. So if you click and drag to your right side, you can see the roundness of our rectangle has been increased. If you want to undo that, you can just click and bring it all back to 0, or just like this, bring it all back to 0 like this. But I'm actually going to add the rounded rectangle effect. So I'm just going to add our rounded rectangle, and then I'll close this up. I'll make sure this is placed very well. So I'm just going to place this right here. Better still, we can still align this to our text like this. So I'm actually just going to align this right here, and then I'll go back to my text tool again. So I'm going to create a text, and then we are going to insert the text into this our rectangle right here. So what we are going to do is I'm going to click on my text tool, and then ignore this selection, just press enter. It is going to disappear. Then I'll click on my workspace, and then I'll start typing. So I'll click and I'll start typing. Maybe I'll start join us now. Then I'll add an exclamation mark just like this. So I'll go back to my move tool in order to move it. So I'm just going to place it right here. So assuming I don't know the center of this rectangle, and I want to center the join us now to this rectangle. So what I want to do is I'll come back to my layers panel again. Our join us now layer is selected. So I'm just going to press Ctrl and click on the rectangle to select the 2 layers, and then I'll come back top here. You can see our tools for centering elements has been activated. So I'm just going to click on this right here, and then click on this right here. You can see this is now the center of our rectangle that we just created. So I'm going to change the color from black to a darker version of this blue. So to change the color, I'll come to my layers panel, and then I'll double click on this thumbnail to bring up my color picker tool. And when you bring out your mouse pointer outside the color picker tool, you see it has turned to something like a color picker tool. literally a color picker tool. So we are just going to click on our background. You can see our rectangle has been changed, so that means it has sampled the color that we've just clicked on, and it has changed our rectangle color to that same color. So I'm just going to do that, and it has been changed, and then I'll click and drag it down just like this to get a darker version of our background color. So I'm just going to maintain it right here. Maybe here is okay. So I'm just going to click OK, and now we are done with this design. So you can see with just a few elements, we've been able to create something that is very readable and something that is very simple in Photoshop. I hope you guys have followed, and yeah, I hope you guys have learned something from this. You can see that we have combined all the tools and then tricks that we've learned from the previous lesson to just create a simple flyer like this, or a simple design in Photoshop, just like the one you are looking at right now. So in the next lesson, we are actually going to deep dive into how you can create more engaging and more catchy designs using the basic tools that we've learned in this Photoshop. I hope you guys have been able to learn something, and I hope you guys have achieved the same results that I'm looking at. I'll see you in the next lesson.